Our next speaker is Cathal Fitzgerald from Arigna Fuels in Dublin, Ireland. Close enough? All right, very good. And let me make sure you're started. Very good. Super. Thank you.
Yeah, that was actually super interesting, and my presentation could nearly dovetail directly into what you've been talking about, because what I'm going to talk about is a transition story. It's a company taking a company that produces low smoke coal to biocoal to biochar, and I think some of the points that Suzanne made were super relevant, and I think so I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey. It's over a long time, but it's done quite quickly. I'm the chairman of Arigna Fuels, and I'm just going to spend the next 20 minutes just explaining to you how we've come from manufacturing low smoke coal to ending up having one of the largest operating biochar production facilities in the world, and the lessons that we learned along the way, and also, frankly, the challenges that we faced and the challenges that we still face. So just a couple of things about the company. It has its production facility in Roscommon in Ireland, right slap bang in the center. Nobody goes to Roscommon, people leave it. It has 75 employees. It has $15 million revenues right now, primarily from low smoke coal. And I just want to give a little bit of the early history of the company, because your history shapes the lens that you look at the present and the future, and I think it's important to do that. The company was founded over 100 years ago. It was extracting coal for power generation in Ireland. It was the only coal mine in Ireland. But then, as the coal ran out and power generation moved to other fuels, the company was forced to start looking at other products and other markets. And it was also a feature that the burning of bituminous coal was causing health issues in the cities, and that was both in Ireland and in the UK. So what Arigna did is in the mid 80s is that they built a 70,000 metric ton low smoke hot cure facility to make low smoke coal. So like it has similar characteristics, as making biochar, except for it's obviously not done in the absence of oxygen. The company also built a wind farm on site in the mid-1990s. Now, the point of all this is that the company has a long history of adapting and innovating. It has been forced to deal with the changes that are occurring in the marketplace. However, even then it was apparent that the way forward wasn't with fossil fuels and with coal in particular. So the company started to look at renewables as an alternative to smokeless coal for domestic use, and it's a sort of an interesting approach. And it's interesting how we arrived at biochar, because what the company did, and I wasn't involved at the time. What the company did was they effectively took a piece of coal and reverse engineered it. So they said what product and what effectively biomass waste and what process can we use that will produce something that has the same characteristics as coal, right down to the look and the feel of it, which actually turned out in retrospect to be a disadvantage. And after a significant amount of research, they concluded that processing a dry and dense biomass byproduct through pyrolysis would provide the solution. So what they did, we're still selling coal, and this is our main business, but they're trying to plan for the future. So in 2010, the company bought some small scale lab-based pyrolysis equipment, and they hired the guy who actually designed that equipment out of the University of Leeds, and he had a PhD in hydrothermal processing. Now, this is a smokeless coal company in Roscommon, County Ireland. And the focus of all of the research was to test materials and devise a process to manufacture biochar for conversion to biocoal. That was their goal. So, and the process was just as important as the actual product itself. And the reason why is that we had to be able to produce the biocoal at the same price as coal. It had to compete with coal. And I think it goes to the point that you were making earlier on, Suzanne, about the importance of looking at your market. So having tested and analysed various biomass feedstocks, it was concluded that washed olive pits was the preferred feedstock due to the density, consistency, and sustainability. Now, funnily enough, there's not a whole pile of washed olive pits in Northern Europe. So that straight away leaves you with the problem, and that's sourcing olive stones. They actually are surprisingly easy to source, because guess what? There's lots of olive oil made in the Mediterranean area. So what the company did then is that they purchased this 1 ton per hour pilot plant, and then they started to work on the production process. And that took a long time, because you have to think about what you're trying to do here. You have your smokeless coal plant running. You have this other sort of mini plant running beside it, and at the same time, you're trying to devise a process by which that what you produce will end up being the same price as coal. There were a couple of issues to be addressed. First of all, even going to one ton per hour involves, like from the lab, that actually involves scaling and integration. And these are complex engineering tasks. We had to design our own our own I've lost the word now. Our own thermal reactor, and then a thermal oxidizer. Sorry. And the second issue that we had was that we had to come up with a process for converting the biochar to biocoal. And there was many factors to consider here. So we had to look at the carbon content, we had to consider the briquette size, and we also had to consider the binders. As I said, the product and process were designed to mimic the attributes and economics of coal. And it sort of seems strange that we should arrive at a biochar product and process in that way, but it's actually proven to be very fortuitous as we move to other markets, and I'll come to that in a second. And the other issue was that, and I think Suzanne alluded to this as well, is that like whatever we were going to design, whatever product it was, it couldn't result in our customers, which are domestic users, having to buy a new piece of equipment, a boiler or a stove or whatever it is. It had to be able to be used in the let's call it burning system that they were using, which is either sort of a low-grade stove or else open fire. So in 2017, we had now perfected the process. We had perfected the product, and the product is called Harvest Flame. And Harvest Flame is a biocoal made from washed olive pits. It's 100% sustainable. It's made, as I say, from olive pit biochar, and the process is highly efficient, as all of the syngas is used in the thermal oxidizer to keep the process running. So the guys there tell me that it's 94% efficient. Not that it means a lot to me, but it sounds impressive. So we've started to sell the product in the domestic market, and the response was very favourable. People, had started to look for sustainable products, and didn't want to use coal. So we now started our biochar journey. So we decided at that point that the company decided at that point that was going to scale up production, and I was going to buy 2 large reactors. So, and this shows the innovative nature of the people that are involved. They effectively sort of toured the world looking for reactors that they could afford, and they identified 2 reactors, each with a capacity of 35,000 metric tons, and they were available for immediate purchase. Now, the company had already spent a significant amount of money, approximately $8 million already, on just getting here. And they now and there's going to be another significant amount to spend coming up, and they realized at this point they needed external investment. The company was at that point family owned. They're primarily primarily engineers, and this is where I come in. I have no background in biochar and any of that type of stuff. Anything I've learned, and I've learned in the last 12 to 18 months. But the company I own, my business partner is a boutique corporate finance company, and we raise money typically for specialist type products, and we'll occasionally deploy our own capital, as we have in this particular project. And then, interestingly enough, we got involved in an afforestation project. And if you ever want your heart broken, get involved in afforestation in Ireland, and particularly if you try and do the right thing by planting native trees. I was a natural blonde before I started that process. But we actually, as a result of that, we knew a lot about the carbon credit market. And so when the guys came to us and said, listen, we need money to buy the machines and install the machines, etc., because we want to create this burning product, this bio-coal, we said, like, we are interested, but not for the reasons you think. We're interested in the fact that you've demonstrated quite clearly that you have the expertise to produce biochar. The other thing that attracted us to the company is that they actually had a transition product, because transition products are super important. I mean, I know there are lots of biochar facilities being started, and like, I'm listening to the conference like over the last sort of day or so, like it always comes down to, it seems like, what's your end use? Where's the end use market? And to be honest, a lot of it is not, like, it hasn't been clear to me what the end use is. And that's why the transition product was super important to us. The other thing that was very important is that the company had R&D and marketing skills, and I'll come to that in a second. The company was already dealing with consumers. It was selling coal and had already had to change its product, and that's very important because it showed that they had marketing capability. However, we also recognised the challenges that the company faced, and one of them was just the association with coal. Coal is a very emotional thing, much more so than oil. For some reason, it just evokes everything that's bad, and whereas oil you can sort of get away with it, some of the time, you can never get away with it with coal. And the other thing that concerned us was that there didn't seem to be like any large-scale markets for biochar, with the possible exception of carbon credits. And our experience of carbon credits on the afforestation project had not been positive. Anybody who follows nature-based carbon credits will know that it's been a complete disaster. However, we raised the funds for the company, and the reactors were delivered in April 2023. They were commissioned in November, and now they're currently ramping up to full capacity. I mentioned that research is crucial, and I know there's a ton of research that goes on about biochar, but to us, it's applied research that's important. Biochar is relatively easy to make in small quantities, and it's clearly got many beneficial effects. Like, what's actually much harder to do, and Bernardo was speaking about it, is to scale production and make and sell a biochar product profitably. It's really tough. And at that point, there was now 10 million in the project in terms of research facilities, production and production machinery. But we have a 10 metric ton per hour plant that's operational. And the research part of it was very important. Like, we have 2 full-time people there. They test varieties of biomass. And it helps us when we're dealing with their customers. It's very important when you're dealing with large industrial players that you can adapt to their needs. Like, there's no point in saying that we built the mousetrap and everybody will come. They don't. But like, biochar is like the term oil. There's lots of different types of biochar, and different industrial users have very different requirements. And what they want to see is that if they start to talk to you, like, if you can't produce it in scale, they're just not interested. You'll never get past the first meeting. And they also want to know, can it be tested and analyzed in scale? Like when you're operating. So can you do a test run, and you test it in your labs, they take it away, and then they test it in their labs. So our focus is very much on applied research, and it's very much on an economic return. Like, we have a real business here with 75 employees. We can't be purists about it. We have to keep this business alive and make it survive and thrive. So the current situation is that we can provide multiple grades of biochar. We've excellent R&D facilities. We can actually use and have tested very many feedstocks. Our main product right now from biochar is bio-coal for domestic use, and we can adapt and meet industrial customer demand. But, and is that one of the things is that while we were sort of happy enough with the progress that was being made, we decided that what we would do is sit down and just do a strategic review of the company and also the market. The tool that we used is something called the McKinsey 3 Horizon Framework, and it's really good for companies that are in transition. But what it does is it sort of forces you to look at the present situation, and there's a whole process that you go through, and you pick out like all these different categories, etc. And then you go into the forward, into the future. Let's go 5-7 years out, and you go, what are the envisaged futures? What might our future as a business look like? What would the market look like? And then you get into the middle piece, and it goes, what strategies do you think you're going to need to get there? And it's quite a disciplined and sort of rigorous process. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to gather a lot of data. So you have to go and start gathering data about coal markets, biochar markets, etc. And then you also have to get a lot of qualitative data as well, which means going to talk to people. And talking to people, let's call it your existing customers, people who already use your coal, the people who use your biocoal, and then go to talk to the people who you think are going to be using your biochar. And so what are they going to be using it for? And that was a very, very important thing for the company to do. So over the course of a number of days, we went through this process. We used it to decide on the strategies and opportunities that we should pursue. But more importantly, it actually highlighted the opportunities and strategies that we should discard. That was crucial for us. We took the ones that we had chosen, and what we did was we translated them into SMART goals, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with. And they're now with the leadership team, with the monthly review, and then a quarterly review with the entire team. I'm not going to go into this whole process here with you. If anybody's interested in it, it's all on the internet, and I'll happily talk to you about it as well. However, I will share with you some of the challenges, and then I'll come to the opportunities. Our domestic fuel market is very seasonal, be it regular coal or be it biocoal. And also, interestingly enough, that it's become more of a spontaneous purchase rather than a planned purchase. People used to buy, I'll take half a ton of coal. I'll take, and I'll take it twice. Once and at the start of the season, and then later on. People now, what they do is they say, "Oh, it looks like it's going to be cold this weekend. I'll drop in and I'll buy 4 bags," and that causes a problem for us. We cannot plan production like we used to. So unless we're going to tie up large amounts of working capital in inventory during the summer months, we actually end up with a lot of capacity issues in the heating season, because everybody wants coal and it's not even uniform. However, on the plus side, what we actually have is a lot of excess capacity for industrial customers, and that's actually crucial. As I mentioned, no capacity, no talk. The next challenge we faced was our location. We are in the middle of Ireland, literally in Roscommon. There's no infrastructure around it. You can see the trucks going in and out, and the plant is surrounded by green fields. However, what we do have is we have a 25-acre site that currently produces coal and biocoal. We have all the permits we need to produce large quantities of biochar, and it also transpires then that some of our industrial customers are actually quite close to us, and they're also not that price sensitive. And this was the point that Suzanne alluded to earlier on. It's not all about the price. The price is important, but they're also focused on the sustainability of it and also and whatever other qualities the biochar might have. So while we're based in Roscommon, we also recognise that what we must do is we must build a plant in the UK and/or in continental Europe. Another issue that's raised is our dependence on one feedstock. For the moment, olive pits are plentiful, and supply will increase actually as the market develops. But I wouldn't say we're not concerned. We're not overly concerned. We've tested other feedstocks, and we know what we would do in the event that olive pits became unavailable or uneconomic. The key thing for us is that we produce low smoke coal. It is a pain. And because it's so difficult to deal with banks, insurers, investment funds, etc. Because if you mention low smoke coal, there's a box that gets ticked or another box that doesn't get ticked. It's a real challenge. But we could cease coal production tomorrow, and we could replace all that coal production with biochar and or biocoal. We just need to have the markets there. And then finally, and this was the trickiest one in a way, that there's just so many opportunities. When you look at biochar, if you look at that graphic at the top, I mean, biochar is virtually good for everything, right down to hair restoration, and it can make you fly. I mean, it's sort of magical powers apparently. But when we looked at it, what we found is that that a lot of the opportunities are just they're small scale. They're just niche. A lot of them will take years to come to fruition. Some of them require further research, and some of them require certification. And then the last one is that some of the opportunities are going to require a lot of marketing. So if you go into let's call it soil enhancement for domestic use, like peat moss as we call it in Ireland, you're talking about a major branded consumer product. That's millions. So while we saw that there's a lot of research and commentary on the uses of biochar, there's a lot less work done on the economics of those uses, and certainly the work that we have done is makes us believe that a lot of the espoused uses of biochar are just uneconomic. They just won't work at the current price. So what did we identify as the medium opportunities? It sort of might seem strange that in the face of the drive to solar, heat pumps, and other renewables, etc., that we would say that the domestic fuel market, it might seem like an odd choice. But it's interesting. The issue is that we're actually burning more wood, in Europe now than we did in the last 5-10 years, and a lot of the wood is actually wet wood, because trees don't go quick enough for the amount of it that we're burning. And as a consequence, we're running into air quality issues now in a lot of the cities, certainly in Ireland and the UK, simply because of the amount of wet wood that's being burned. There's 1.5 million homes in the UK have a wood burning stove. It's phenomenal, and actually the number of stoves that were purchased has increased quite significantly, largely as a result to increasing fuel costs and concerns about just generally fuel security. Some industries such as cement manufacturing, steel manufacturing, dairy products, etc., they require large amounts of energy to reach the required production temperatures. And typically they use coal or natural gas. And the issue that they face is twofold. One is the projected increased cost of carbon credits, which they are required to buy. That's part of the EU taxonomy. And the other thing is just customer and regulatory pressure to reduce the carbon footprint of the product. If you build, in 5 years' time, if you're still building, an office block, and it's just made out of this kind of pure fossil fuel based cement, Amazon won't be leasing it off you. They just, be going what's the carbon footprint of this building? And it's a significant and increasing issue. Hydrogen, it might be the long-term solution to all of this. We don't make hydrogen in Ireland, and and we all, at least anything I read, and I don't know a ton about it. It seems the economics of that aren't there yet, but maybe they will. In the interim, what they need is something that burns like coal or gas, if they're using gas, in their existing facilities, and it has to be available in large quantities. So as a consequence, one of the things that we're doing right now with one of the largest cement manufacturers in Ireland is that they're replacing their coal on a test basis at the end of a production run with our biocoal to see what the impact is on the performance of the kilns. The other one that's interesting is anaerobic digestion, which I understand they call renewable gas, is it RNG? Renewable gas, yeah, thanks. To produce biomethane. And the addition of biochar to that process can enhance yields by up to 10%. However, the wrong type of biochar can reduce yields quite significantly. So, again, it's important that the biochar that's produced is of consistent quality and it's available in sufficient quantities. So we've actually started a trial with an AD, an anaerobic digestion company in the north of Ireland. And what they're doing for the next 2 months, they're putting 100k per day into the anaerobic digester to see what will be the impact on yield. And the reason that they'll talk to us is that we can, if we go forward, we can give them scale and we can give them consistency of quality. Medium-term opportunities. Building materials offer opportunity for carbon insetting. So we have 2 trials running at the moment. One is with a brick manufacturer. So what they're doing is they're manufacturing small bricks. They're putting in the biochar as like part of the aggregate to see what and then they're going to test the performance of the bricks like over 28 days, and they're doing it with different concentrations of biochar. The other interesting one is UPVC. So we're running a trial with a UPVC manufacturer to see if they put the biochar in, like what the performance will be. Now the issue around all of this was we see this as a huge medium-term opportunity. The problems would be certification. So it just takes time. Even when you've got it done and everybody agrees that it works, it has to be certified and accepted. Carbon credits, yeah, I mean, they're a clear opportunity and there are buyers in size. Now, but we see it as a medium-term opportunity for 2 reasons. One is specific to Arigna, is that we make low-smoke coal. It's just too hard to explain. But the other issue is that we've been, I wouldn't say burned, but the afforestation project taught us, a lot about relying on a single product, which is carbon credits, that actually has no other use. Carbon credits are not used for anything. It's a sort of a manufactured product, and we would be, I have to say, cautious about that market, while at the same time we wouldn't rule it out. In terms of the longer term, what do we see? You might be surprised that we've put agriculture in. I mean, because a lot of the conferences have been about agriculture, and particularly when biochar has so many potential applications. Sorry, am I running over? Okay, I'm just about there. And Ireland has a large agricultural sector. The issue for us, and somebody spoke about it yesterday, thank you. Someone spoke about it yesterday, that after, was it like 30,000 or 36,000 pieces of research, and the woman was clearly able to demonstrate that there'd been a 300% increase in yield in that, was it the Gainey farm, I think in Washington State, and still they can't get it accepted. What you're talking about is, the slow adoption rates of new ideas in the agricultural sector. Certification is a huge issue. Also, the nature of the waste is a problem. It has high moisture content, and then the other thing is waste collection process. It's not centralized. It's difficult. The 2 other opportunities are horticulture and waste treatment. In the interest of time, I would just say that we've looked at both. One requires a ton of money, which is horticulture in terms of the branding and marketing, etc. And then with regard to waste treatment, it's all comes down to moisture content. It just doesn't work. We can't make it work. So in terms of in conclusion, what I'll say is that we have the expertise and capacity to produce large quantities of high quality biochar. For us, scale and adaptability, I killed it, are crucial. For us, the near-term opportunity is industrial biocoal. Medium-term opportunity is carbon insetting in building materials. And for us, what we have to do in Arigna is we have to simultaneously generate awareness of our achievements and capabilities, and that's one of the reasons I'm here today. We have to help create biochar markets by the research and testing that we're doing. We need to expand internationally. It's not going to be enough to be based in Ireland, but crucially, we have to sell product. If you don't sell product, you won't survive. So thank you for your time, and we have a little bit of time for questions, do we? Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have some time for a few questions.
Hello. What can you tell us? What can you tell us about the large-scale units that you purchased? Who from? And any thoughts on how that worked out? Was it a domestic producer or import or things like that? And the technology.
Yeah, you're definitely asking the wrong person. So I can tell you that right now. But the machines were purchased secondhand from a power plant in it was either South or North Carolina. They'd been originally used to blacken wood chip. They ceased to use them, and they are made by the Bethlehem company. And that's the full. That's all I know.
On the building materials, have you got some research on when you add biochar to cement and stuff like that? I'm understanding that sometimes there's an increase in strength when you add a biochar to cement. Is that anything that's actually out there?
Yeah, I mean, no, we're not at that stage yet. What's actually happening is that the material has been sent to a brick manufacturer, and then they're adding it to the production of the bricks, and then they'll put it through the 28-day tests, to see what, when they put the bricks under pressure, to see what stress level eventually cracks them. We don't have the results of the test yet. Yeah.
Appreciate it. You mentioned that scale was crucial a couple of times. What's the threshold of scale? Like what's subscale and what's meaningful? And also, is that a customer-led thing? Like they don't want to buy from subscale producers, or a CapEx, OpEx?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's sort of customer-led. It depends on how much biochar the customer thinks that they're going to need. So, obviously, for the cement manufacturer, I think there's 200K of coal burned, for every ton of cement. So, but it's the only thing I could say. It's customer led. It's just the customer looks at you and go, what can you produce? How much of it can you use? And they're, so it was interesting with the cement company, because we said, we'll give you samples, and they said, oh great, and they specified what they want, and we started to manufacture it. And what they did is, the CEO, CFO, etc., they all came down and visited the plant because that's what they're interested in. If they start the process with us, and obviously they think what we're doing is sufficient.
Okay, any other questions?
What is the volatile matter of the biocoal that you produce, and what's the volatile matter of the actual coal that you have as a smokeless coal?
Straight up, I don't know the answer to the question. So I actually have it here on a sheet of paper, but the technical stuff is just not my expertise.
Okay, any others? Yes, ma'am. Y'all need to plan this better so you're not going from one side of the room to the other side of the room.
Hi, no worries. I was curious what the logistics and sourcing is like for the biomass, considering it's all across Europe, I assume.
So yeah, there's a market in olive pits, and there are brokers who approach us once they know that we're buying the olive pits. They approach us. So the last shipment we took in was 3,000 tons, and it was in a ship delivered to a port on the east coast of Ireland, and then it's stored and then shipped to Roscommon. A lot of olive stones that are produced are just not collected. I mean, they just get thrown out. They're left by the side of the plant of the olive oil production, and they just rot. So like as markets develop, we would expect to see a lot more olive stones coming on board, coming on stream.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sorry, but I have a lot of ignorance because I'm from Colombia. In Colombia, we have a lot of carbon for the production of steel with high calorific power, and we don't change in the market. We don't change to the biocoal. Yeah, or bioproducts to change the processes. The change that you do or did in Ireland was for laws, for normative, for demand of the consumers, or really is you go the pioneer in the market and put the product, and all the consumers say, "Oh, okay, I want to." What's happened?
Yeah, if I understand the question is that, like, you know, did we devise the product to push it on the market, or was the customer saying to us, "This is what we need"? Like, yeah, like we sell 40,000 tons of low smoke coal every year, and we're of the view we won't be selling 40,000 tons or anything close to it in 5 years' time. The market won't be there. So, you know, it's a sort of a bit of a push-pull thing, you know, insofar as that there's definitely a demand for a sustainable domestic heating fuel product, but people don't really know what they want. I will say this, though, which was interesting, is that when you come from a coal background, what do? You make something that looks like coal, you know, which is, because when I got involved in the company, like the middle of last year, I was going, like, why is it black and look like that? And because it was to replace coal, and I was like, but is that what people said they wanted? People actually want to buy artificial logs. That's what they really want. And then you get into the properties of the biochar itself. To kind of be extruded, does it bind, etc. Whole other conversation.
I'd like to ask a question on the overall economics and what you're seeing from the market on these industrial customers. Obviously, the cost of the material input is a big factor going into the overall economics, as well as the yield you're getting out of your process. Are you finding a sweet spot with some of these industrial customers on what they're willing to pay? And what type of raw materials are you trying to target so that you can meet the economics?
Yeah, I'll start with the last piece first. Like for the moment, we're just going to stick with olive stones because it seems to work. And that gets to the first part of your question. Yes, we have found a sweet spot in terms of the economics, particularly with regards to the biocoal. With regard to coal, the way it works is that, let's say a ton of coal is $100 a ton, just picking a round number, right? So in the EU, if you've used up all your carbon credit allowances, you have to start which are declining each year. That your allocation declines, it's effectively a tax. You have to go and buy carbon credits on the European trading system, and they cost, let's say, another $100. But you have to buy 3 of them for every ton of coal. So now your ton of coal costs you let's call it $400. That's in and around. Well, it's actually below what we can produce at. But what the cement guys are going, they're going, well, you know what? We got to think about the future here, because we cannot continue to burn the amount of coal that we're currently burning to manufacture cement for two reasons. One is the price of carbon credits will probably go up because there's going to be less of them, and the second thing, which is a point that Suzanne made earlier on, there's a point at which somebody's going to go, if you're still using a fossil fuel to make your cement, we won't be buying off you. You lose your customer. Price doesn't become price only becomes less of a factor. It starts to get binary.'re not there yet, but we're approaching it.
Okay, last call. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Do you use artificial intelligence to optimize your production process by now?
No, it's a really good question, though, because I actually did think of it, because like the IP that this company has is actually the process itself, like sourcing olive stones, the machinery itself, all that good stuff. The site is one of the most valuable things it has as well. But but the company believes that that the IP is in the process. So anything that improves the process would be hugely beneficial. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. We don't, but we should.
Okay, I think we owe them a round of applause for all their efforts. Thank you very much. That's the end of the session for today.
Biochar.org appreciates the support of our sponsors, exhibitors, presenters, and attendees. We look forward to seeing you at our next conference in September 2025.